Welcome to Rapid Quants. This is Michael Merle. It's September 3rd, 2024, and we're back with another crypto market update. All right, let's get to it. Bitcoin first. I've already plotted the weekly expected move ranges, and we're currently at 62,000 and 51,000. So about, actually a clean 11,000 handles. Quite a lot, right? But not really too surprising given the volatility we've experienced over the last, 6 months plus, right? Since late February, early March, we've just been bouncing around. And one of the things that occurred to me over the weekend while I was working on, actually completing another trading system, is that it's actually been an excellent period for me as a system trader, as a system developer specifically. You know the old expression, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. And I've looked at the market and I've kind of meditated on it, right? Like you sometimes do, you don't even think about it. But I was working out at the gym and it occurred to me like this actually has been such a productive period for me. And I was a bit surprised because the market has been crap, right? Not much to talk about. I mean, this is, I mentioned last week, looks like Dr. Zhu's worst nightmare, right? And it's been just great for system development because, very simply so, any system that you would develop in a market phase like that and that actually holds up is very valuable and is probably fairly resilient. Because if you are, let's say, in a bull market or raging bear market for that matter, and you develop a system and the system performs just stellar. Well, that's kind of easy, honestly, because in a bull market, almost everything works, frankly speaking. I've developed systems during bull markets, and something like this happens, and they break down. So there's another aspect to it, though, and I found another edge, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more detail when I'm done just talking about the general market. But I was working on another edge, and it occurred to me that the reason why I found this edge in the first place was because of the wild swings in the market, and that it was just so crazy that certain sentiments, certain things changed very rapidly. And that kind of drew me down another rabbit hole that in the end resulted in actually a very profitable, very nice system that I've come up with that I've been testing and that looks really good. And I couldn't have come up with that system had it not been for this really crazy market, because if the market just goes unidirectional like it has been maybe last year, right? I mean, okay, we had some swings, but compare this with this, right? I mean, it's just been crazy over the last 6 months. I wouldn't have seen these things in here. So I think the old expression really holds true, because you're cutting your teeth in a really, really bad market. And a bad market phase for me is this. A bad market phase for me is not a bear market. Bear markets are actually not that difficult to trade once you know what to look out for, right? They move much faster, of course. And you need to know when to get in, and you also need to know when to hold, and you need to know the thresholds, and you also need to know when to call it quits if you prove them wrong. Bull markets, by the way, are very easy to trade. Something like this is really where you cut your teeth, but also as a system developer, this is the time to be active. Because consider a farmer, right? There's time to seed. There's time to prepare the ground. I think it's either, depending on the type of crops you grow, it's either in fall or it's potentially in spring, right after winter. Then there's time where you really don't do much. You just let it grow, right? And then there's harvest season. It's kind of similar to the market. There's times when you should be really active, and there's times when you should do nothing. And there's a time when you should be learning and should really pay attention. This was definitely a time when you should pay attention and learn. And also maybe test systems as a system developer, because this is a really good time to stress test the system and see, okay, does it hold up under these conditions? Because it probably doesn't get much worse than this. I mean, because if I compare that, and you're actually going to see that on some of the graphs that I'll present today in terms of the system performance, respectively, right? You can see how that all these systems reacted to particular segments in the market, right? When we're looking at Bitcoin as a whole, right? Beautiful bull market. Then there was a shakeout here, right? But it's still fairly unidirectional if you think about it, right? There's some volatility here, tiny bit here, but then it starts going directional. This is actually quite nasty right here, and sort of comparable with what we have now, but on a smaller scale. Same down here. This was actually not easy, right? That's actually when, at the end of a bear market, when people are really chewed out and they're just kind of like looking at this and saying, oh my God, I'm done with crypto. I'm done with stocks. I'm done with trading gold or whatever it is, right? You might be trading. So yeah, this period right here has been tough. It's been extended. It's been extremely volatile, absolutely unpredictable. Right? So anyway, let's move on with that because that was kind of like a prelude to what I want to show you later. So to kind of prime you and to kind of set the stage, so to say. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. We have these weekly ranges. Otherwise, there's really not too much to talk about because it seems that every time we're getting towards like 63, 64, something happens. I expected it to actually happen a little bit earlier, but maybe because of less activity, there was a holiday weekend coming, maybe less liquidity, it got slapped down right here at 64,000, and now we're like here again. So we still haven't found a direction, and there's really nothing to be said until we do, and nothing happens until we cross one of those thresholds here, right? If we don't cross these thresholds right here, the weekly thresholds, nothing will happen. And also don't expect these thresholds to really change much until we finally break out in one direction or the other. And hopefully to the upside, and hopefully soon. So let's take a look, however, real quick at USDT, and that's probably the last chart we're going to look at in terms of just like the weekly ranges. Oh, before I forget it, let me pause real quick and show you the weekly sheet because I mentioned it last week, but many of you probably haven't seen it. And here it is in all its glory. It's again at bit.ly/crypto_em_ranges. Okay, these are the weekly ranges. The one I just showed you on the screen on the chart is right here, right? The 11 handle range. And we're going to see right here, Bitcoin. I'll highlight Bitcoin and Ethereum for you guys so you can find it easily. But everything else, you just look up right here, do a find, right? I don't know, BNB, boom, right? So Cyber, boom, right? So that's how you find them. Very easy. If you want to know what the weekly ranges are, and it's always the green and the red, right? That's the upper range, that's the lower range. I mean, it's probably clear, right? So you find it there. That's the URL. Write it down, maybe copy it, put it maybe in as a bookmark. I update it every Monday. This is for week number 36, which we're in right now. All right, next. So here's Ethereum, also quite a range here. We believe between 2,100 and 2,700. So, big ranges as well. And not surprisingly, what I really find so amazing is how well those line up, though. Because again, this is done algorithmically. See that? I didn't change those, move those, right? This is exactly the value that's in the spreadsheet. And it just lines up with this right here. This, major support zones that probably will pop out to me as well. Same up here. See that? I didn't drag it up or down to fit this. No, I didn't. I could have moved it up, but I think this is a really good range. So this is basically just the expected move range for the next week until Sunday, right? Okay. Otherwise, again, nothing else to be said. It looks not too hot at the current time. I showed you last week the Ethereum Bitcoin cross, and it keeps falling in that range. Let me just pop it up real quick. Boom. All right. Yeah. I mean, it's just been bad. So, okay. I mean, there's actually really not else to be said about it. And you just got to play the swings. Okay. So, speaking of which, let's pop Bitcoin USDT back up here in case I need it again. And then let's just kind of go down one system at a time. So I have been working on, a refined version of the seasonality signal that I had been serving for quite a long time. And I created a backtester, a Bayesian backtester, if that has any meaning to you. Some of you math nerds probably understand what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to explain it today. Maybe another time. But it's basically a backtester in rough terms that optimizes iteratively based on the testing results that come in. So you have, let's say, a range of 20 parameters that you need to optimize on. Right? That's difficult because, if you square by 20, then you're getting an S-load of possible tests of combinations that might work. So what you want to do if you run a test, and actually running a test right here, right? Let me actually pop it up. So it's doing it right now, right? It's testing all these parameters here, right? But anyway, it's running a bunch of tests based on the Bayesian optimizer, and the optimizer optimizes itself based on the results that come in. So it's kind of a search space, if you will, right? So a search space, which is a bunch of numbers, and you say, okay, well, I'm using a certain combination of numbers randomly in the beginning, and then I start testing and say, okay, is it getting better? Is it getting worse, right? And as it gets better, it keeps going in that direction. If it sees, say, okay, now it's going worse, it's basically starting to mutate the numbers in a different direction and trying to figure out where the optimal spot is. So anyway, I ran optimization and I basically picked out the best configurations that I really liked, but not just the ones which were producing an optimal result, but also the ones that were more conducive to how retail traders are trading. How do retail traders trade? Well, how do they not trade? Well, I could give you a seasonal system that changes once every 6 months. Would you like that? Probably not. Most of you guys want to be a little bit more active, a little bit more flexible. So I was trying to find a middle ground, right? So that's always the art, right? When you trade something internally as a trader, you have maybe completely different requirements and you are looking for different characteristics than when you develop a system that might be adopted by your audience, by your subscribers, etc., etc. So that's something always to keep in mind, and that's what I have to do. So, for instance, this right here, it does very well, but the drawdowns are heavy, right here, and you see that it holds up fairly well here during the bear market, but it still gets whipsawed. So, I mean, on paper, if you look and just really numerically, it digs itself out very quickly. It's actually a really good system. It's just more volatile than probably the average retail trader would tolerate, I would think. Right? It's one I would actually trade because especially since it's done fairly well here. Do I expect stellar performance here? Maybe, but not from a very simple seasonal signal. Gravitas actually did fairly well here, right? Depending on configuration. But if you just have a seasonal signal where you measure, okay, how is altcoins doing? How is cash doing? Well, cash is always doing good. Unless it's getting inflated. Well, that never happens, right? Bitcoin, is it a Bitcoin season? Is it Ethereum season? You get my drift, right? You kind of have to evaluate when you put your money, where's it safest? Where's it most likely to experience appreciation? That's what this thing does. So it's not per se a trading system. It's more like a get your ass out of jail free card, right? In a way that, it keeps you, for instance, here, it got hit during the bear market, but it didn't get hit through the deepest depth of the descent down here, right? It held up very nicely. It actually made some money, had to give some of it back because of the whipsaw down here, then had to adjust itself to the unfolding new bull market that was coming here. And then, right here, now it has to tolerate this. But all in all, I mean, from basically $1,000, in 2020, keep in mind, it made $17,500. It's nothing to shake a stick at, right? And I ask you, how many of you guys put $1,000 into the crypto market, $1,000, and then have $17,500 to show for today? Not many. Most people got shaken out here in between, or gave up, or I don't know, doubled down on the wrong end, So that's what I'm talking about. Anyway, just one configuration. There's various. This one I actually like, It lost a bit recently. Is that a big deal to me? No. It's kind of as busy as I would like it. But, it didn't really take full advantage up here, right? It kind of left some of the bull market out. So, it's cool. I like it. It's not bad. It is definitely, also it made around $16,000, right, over the last 4 years. $4,000 investment, that's stellar. Show me something that does that, right? And that's actually a configuration I really like. It's a little bit more busy than I would like personally, to be honest. But, again, this is a 4 years, right? So I think you're probably swapping like every 2 weeks or so positions. Might even be swapping every week. But is that a big deal? Too many people now, right? They like to be active. So it did also make over $17,500. It made like probably $18,000 over the last 4 years. It's nice. It did okay here, right? Also got drawn a little bit, but it held up very nicely. What I really like is that it picked up right away here at the bottom of the bear market, right here, late 2023. Boom, right here. Gave some back here though. Do I love that? No, happens. But as soon as it picks up, it catches this one here. See that? So I look at these things like, this is actually pretty damn good. And I kind of like this configuration. So just want to show you. So that's the trend signal. Let's talk about Gravitas. So a lot of you are Gravitas subs, and some of you are not. And some of you will probably be Gravitas subs maybe after seeing that, because Gravitas, I ran 3,800 tests or something because the search space was smaller. So I could afford to do that overnight. Let me show you actually the spreadsheet. This is basically for Bitcoin, and I also have it running on Ethereum, right? And you see here the cumulative returns. That is in percent. So I've actually sorted it by SQN, system quality number. Suffice it to say that's a good number. And I mean, I'm going to scroll down here, right? And I challenge you to see a negative number. See that? It's crazy. The worst test is 2,923. And I mean, I could pop it up, but it's tradable, right? I was stunned when I saw that because, I mean, talking about a resilient system, I love Gravitas. It's just a fantastic system. I just swapped over from the Windows VPS that I ran, where I ran Gravitas on NinjaTrader. I just swapped it over to Python, and it's running on my server now. And the reason why I also re-implemented it over the summer was because it gives me such vast opportunities for optimization, for data mining, for improvements. Also doing fancy graphs, right, which I really like to do, stuff like that, right? That's available now as part of the system. And you can see, right, how much it made over the last 4 years, right? I mean, $93,000. That's a beautiful system. That's a real trading system. It's either short or long, versus the seasonal signals, either just long or cash, right, depending on what you do. Either long Bitcoin, either long Ethereum, either long altcoins. And I use the altcoin index for that, the total 3. Or you are in cash, you're long cash. I'm always long cash. But this system is basically always in Bitcoin. It's always in the market. It's either short or long, right? If you don't want to be short, well, be going to cash. It's your prerogative, right? If you cannot go short, you can always go short an ETF, by the way. There's plenty of them out there now. This is actually one of the configurations I really like. And the graph I just showed you, and actually subscribers have access to that. With the signal, I get clickable links where they actually get and see several graphs, more zoomed in. That's actually just the overview graph. And you can see how it gets a little bit whipsawed here in these periods, but it doesn't matter because it actually held up very nicely up here, really nicely. And I think the results, right, if you're looking at that, that's really the profit curve, right? That's the actual chart. You don't really see, you see in gray very subtly in the background, you see Bitcoin. And then these bands that you see around, right, that swap between red and green, those are actually the Kalmans which are interacting with each other. And it's over 4 years, so it's a lot of data, okay? The gray lines show the crossovers, right? It's not that many trades, to be honest. Over 4 years, it's nothing. You can see it better here, actually. See the crossovers are every time there's a little kink in the line, right? Clean signal, I love this. I mean, and we also have, I just actually finished Ethereum as well because I haven't set up a new version of Ethereum yet for the signal. And I told my subs that that's going to come, and yeah, I've done the same. I mean, yeah, here's some of the configurations I've been looking at. Actually, Ethereum loves this because Ethereum is obviously a bit more volatile, right? And again, here you can go short, so it can take full advantage. See that? So it's just been great. I think I'm probably going to pick something like this, which is a little bit more busy. See that? This one has done well. Psychologically, this is probably easiest to trade. Probably made a few $100 less than the other one I showed you. But had you done what the system does, you made a lot of money, right? All right, so moving on. So this was Gravitas, and that brings me to the next one. This one right here. Right now it runs internally. I've named it CryptoKeeper. This is an interesting system, and I've had it in development for the last 6 months or so. And it is the result of observing certain patterns in open interest, which I won't talk about. It's going to be my secret that I take to the grave. It's actually a very simple system. What happens is that it triggers intermittently, as you can see, but it's clustered. And when it triggers, actually, it triggers a lot, meaning that there's a lot of coins. This is an altcoin trading system. I should have mentioned that. My bad. It's an altcoin trading system. This is all altcoin trades, right? What it does, it takes 3 trades. Randomly, actually. It doesn't matter which trades it takes. because the correlation among all these altcoins during these days is extremely high. What happens is that you take these three, you hold them either 24 or 48 hours, depending on the alert, and then you sell. There's no thinking involved. You get alert, you buy, you sell either 24 or 48 hours later. Could have optimized it for 36 hours? Absolutely. Or 72 hours, yes. But again, I've developed in the context of it being for retail traders who just want to get a signal, don't want to have to think, say, hey, there's my signal. By the way, there's no urgency. If you get the signal, you can buy within 2 or 3 hours. It's not, you don't see much price movement during those periods. And you're in 24 or 48 hours later, you sell, and that's basically what it's done. So it's really intermittent. There's periods when it's quiet, like here, and then it starts striking a lot. So you never know, but I did some stats, and it's about 3 or 4 trades per week on average. So it's actually quite busy over time. I love this, and the results so far are just absolutely mind-boggling. There's a little bit of a drawdown here, but I mean, you see also the line in the background. That's basically Bitcoin as context. And I ask you this, right? Any system that does so well during this market phase is probably worth looking at. Okay, and that brings me to the last one. So the last one is this one right here. And this one I call Fidelis. And so we have Gravitas, we have Veritas, and now we have Fidelis. Gravitas is the Bitcoin trading system, Ethereum as well. Veritas just tells you the truth of the market. That's a seasonality signal. And then we have Fidelis. And Fidelis is a system right here that trades either Bitcoin or Ethereum. So these are both Bitcoin and Ethereum trades, only long trades, by the way. Again, it's intermittent, and you hold until you get an exit signal in this case. So there's no time period, finite time period. You basically just hold this position until you get the exit. So again, I cannot talk too much about it. This is proprietary. Here is actually the profit curve. And yeah, it's mind-boggling because over the last 4 years, it's produced 1,700% in profits, considering compounding. Without compounding, you just saw the other graph that was basically a linear regression graph, right? But this is really what you should pay attention to. And this system is just amazing. A few more words about it. Look at 2020, look at 2021, also look at 2022, which was, by all intents and purposes, a terrible year for crypto. And it still ended up making a profit. It was torturous, but I mean, it started here and it ended up here. Small profit, but it did well, doing what's probably one of the worst markets I've ever seen, right, in crypto. And then it was breezing through 2023. It's handling well even the volatility that we saw recently. It's getting hit a little bit, but I've got no doubt it's going to dig itself out very, very quickly from that tiny drawdown it's in right now. So I love this signal. It's beautiful, and yeah, that's it. All right, that's all I got for today. If you stuck it out this long, I really appreciate it. Thanks for dropping by, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.